dear speakers, spiritual friends, Spirit Society of Chicago, all the volunteers who organized this event, I am so humbled to participate in a panel of such distinct speakers. All my friends from U.S. and our colleague from Brazil, Carvalho. I would like to start by wishing everyone peace in our hearts. The Emeritus Professor, Sir Ken Robinson, in his book, The Element, he tells a story that happened on the west coast of the U.S. And he says there is a place there called the Death Valley. And this place has its name because, geologically speaking, it's at 1,000 feet below sea level. As a result, the air is very arid. It is impossible for life to grow and flourish. Thus, its name, the Death Valley. Back in the 1990s, such a powerful volcano exploded, and the quantity of lavas that came about actually changed the weather. And in just a couple of days, incredibly, it started raining on the Death Valley. Photographers from all over the world came to focus its powerful lenses on flowers that were flourishing at the Death Valley. How is it possible? Flowers at the Death Valley. No one had previously known that it would rain. Therefore, no one sowed the seeds before the volcano actually exploded. The lesson behind is that the seeds were already there. And when the conditions became appropriate, the flowers flourished. With work, volunteer work, we must sow the best seeds that we get and not expect to flourish. Because our job is just to plant the seeds. When the right circumstances comes about, the seeds that we have planted will flourish. That goes for our volunteer work, our education, and our actions that motivates others to do the same. Because we have been called to transform this world to a better world. Not so much through verbalization, but more through actions, as we have heard our friends on previous talks. On question 642 of the Spirit's book, the Emeritus Allan Kardec asked the highly evolved spirits if, in order to be pleasing to God and ensure our future happiness, is it enough not to do evil? It's a powerful question. Is it enough not just to do evil? Before we even get to the answer, let's analyze what the question is asking. Most people define themselves as being good people. And why? Because they say, I don't gossip. I don't harm anyone. I'm an honest individual. It's all about the things that they don't do it. Yet, is that enough? According to the highly evolved spirits, no. They say that we must do good to all our abilities because the evil that results from the good left undone by us is our responsibility. It seems to contradict itself, but it doesn't. For example, a parent that raises a child, he doesn't harm the child. He doesn't spank the child. He doesn't humiliate this child. Is he doing any harm? No. But does he educate the child? Obviously not. And as a result, this child will grow uneducated. And all the flaws that stems from the lack of education will be the responsibility of the parents. Lack of parenting. So we must do good. And it's not because it's a religious law. It's a natural law. In the universe, everything that we see is always sharing. When we look at the planets, the cosmos, they're sharing energy with one another. Just imagine if one day the moon became selfish and she says, you know what? I don't want to be bothered with our planet anymore. I want to go on my own. Chaos will erupt in our solar system. To the smallest level of matter. If the electron told the proton, I don't want to be bothered with you, then we would have chaos everywhere. The world as we see it couldn't exist because in the fundamental level of particles and in the grandeurs of the universe, share, love is the law. So we must do good in order to fulfill our mission on this planet. The benefits of volunteers are so many. From the scientific perspective, there are so many articles in the journal Science that describes different behavior of people. There they say how important it is to be a volunteer. They have experiments as far as having people hugging one another. They are volunteers for people to hug one another. And after 20 seconds of hug, they actually measure your blood pressure, your heart rate, and it goes down. For those of you who are medicated, stop taking the medication and hug more people. Your blood pressure will go down. Kissing makes your heart rate go down. Now, obviously, this is not kissing the air, this is actually kissing the cheek. So, there are so many experiments as far as measuring the immunoglobulin, a substance that is an antibody that protects our physical body from illnesses. Those who do good has such a high levels of antibodies in their body. And of course, those who are witnessing other people doing good actually have their levels increased as well. Joanne Evangelist says in the book, Happy Life, that we're not only responsible for our own actions, but we are also responsible for the actions that inspires on others. Which means from the law of action and reaction, I'll get the benefit or the detriment of my own actions, but those who are watching me, if I'm doing good things and they copy me, I get the benefit from their transformation. But if I'm doing evil things, the negative impact that I'm causing on their lives, I'll be responsible for that as well. So, from the scientific perspective, is it good to do good? Definitely. But then, from the social aspect, is it good to do good? Volunteer work changes people's lives constantly. We just had a hurricane a week ago. We left our home in darkness. We've been out of electricity. So many people without power, and others have left their homes. The sea completely washed their house away. And some of these people were still doing volunteer work. They have their generator on and a cable plugged with an outlet. And anyone could come and plug their cell phone just to get their phone recharged. Volunteer work. When we help one another, we change our society. The Spirit spoke, which is such a fountain of knowledge. Allan Kardec so concerned about our well-being. He says, what is the root to all of our pain, to all of our problems, to all of our misery. And the Spirit says selfishness. But on question 9:15, he goes on to explain that our indifference towards one another creates the selfishness everywhere. Our indifference. Martin Luther King Jr., in his fight for social justice, used to say, "It doesn't surprise me, the noise of the evil people. What amazes me is the silence of the good people." When we see the evil everywhere, it's not because evil is so powerful. It's because the good people hide themselves. And it creates the indifference everywhere. And that indifference causes selfishness on other people. There is a little story about this mouse who used to live in this particular farm. And one day the owner of the farm was concerned that he found a mouse. So he decided to put a trap inside the house. So the mouse was so concerned for his life, and he went outside, and he found the chicken. And he told my friend Chicken, "I am desperate for my life. Would you please save me? What's the problem? He installed a trap, and I'm going to die." And the chicken said, "That's not my problem. All I have to do in this farm is to lay eggs." Then this little mouse went on to the pig. "Please help me, help me." And the pig said, "That's not my job. My job is to just roll around this mud." And finally he went to the cow. And the cow said, "That's not my job. To help you? No way. My job is to give milk so they can make cheese out of my milk. That's it." So now the mouse went back to the house very, very depressed. Probably he started taking Seroquel, Xanax, so long, to get himself out of depression. He hardened himself, and later at night, the sound of the trap, the wife came to see finally this mouse trapped and dead. So she never put the light on. And instead, it was a snake who was caught on the trap. And as she got near the trap, the snake took a really big bite and placed all the venomous inside her leg. Immediately, she got very sick. So the husband took her to the hospital, and the doctor said she would die. There's nothing to do. Take her back to home. She had a high fever. And when you have high fever, in order to calm that fever down, what do? You make chicken soup. So the farmer went there and got the chicken and he killed the chicken. And then the immediate thing came by. The relatives, they were so concerned about her health, and it got to a point they had to cook for all these people. So he went to get the pig. And he killed the pig. And finally the woman died. And now the entire city came by. And after the funeral, they had to feed all these people. So they killed the cow. Our indifference will get to us. We need to share each other's pain. By being indifferent, we cause other people selfishness. We say we live under the law that Jesus Christ established for us to do unto others as wish they would do unto us. Now, in reality, you see a lot of people who live under the law do unto others after they have done unto you. Which means you never say good morning to your neighbor. And the reason you never say good morning to your neighbor is because your neighbor never said good morning to you. So which law you living under? You're waiting for them to start before you do it yourself. At your job, I will never be nice to my coworker. Why? Because he's not nice to me. We are living under the law. Let them do first, and then I'll start doing it. The law is we must take the initiative to start doing it. And the less indifferent we are, the more loving our society will become. But the problem is, most people say, I'm tired of doing good. and I get backstabbed by ungrateful people. Now, the problem is that we are expecting good things to come from these people. And good will come, but don't expect to come from the people that you're providing with. It will come one way or the other, because it's the law of reap and sowing. You're sowing love, you definitely will get love. And that is the law. The benefits of volunteer work from a psychological perspective. Why is it important personally to do volunteer work? Well, when we are doing volunteer work, we confront other people's pain. And by witnessing other people's pain, it changes the perspective of our own pain. When we are miserable and suffering and depressed, we think that our problems are the biggest problems ever. And our problems has the measure that we give it to it. So therefore, when we're suffering by ourselves, we think that we are the most miserable people. But when you help other people, you look at their problem, you listen to their pain, to their misery, and then you find out that your problems are not big as you thought they were. And that changes the perspective of your own problem. Thus, it changes the solution. If the problem is seen as being very difficult, how can you solve it? Now that you've seen someone suffering much more than you do, it definitely changes your perception of the problem. When you start doing volunteer work, we are under the illusion that we're going there to help. I'm going there to change these people. And we forget that in reality, we are changing our own lives. They are changing us without us even noticing. To get out of ourselves is so healthy to us. The great political leader, Winston Churchill, he used to say, "You make a living by what you get, or you make a life by what you give." What you get through physical work is food to feed our body. But what you give of yourself through love is food for the soul. If we're not loving one another through works of actions, through works of volunteer, we are spiritually starved. And just like our body, when we are physically starved, we get sick. Therefore, if we are spiritually starved, we will get sick as well. And the body will only reflect our spiritual sickness, our spiritual illness. Therefore, helping someone else, we are feeding ourselves spiritually. We're nourishing our souls in order to be strong to confront our own problems. Volunteer work at the Spiritist Center, it is incredible to do it. Incredible. Now, it takes a lot of ability to be part of a group like that. When we get to a Spiritist Center, we usually ask ourselves, what is it that the Spiritist Center can do for me? John F. Kennedy, he said, do not ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So I like to paraphrase him and say, do not ask what the Spiritist Center can do for you, but what you can do for the Spiritist Center. Because what the Spirit says is that when we are there expecting to get things, we only get a piece of bread on a banquet that is being offered to us. The piece of bread is listening to the lecture, receiving the passes, drinking the fluidic water. That is the bread. But actually doing volunteer work for the Spiritist Center growth, we are savoring the banquet that is being offered to us. So it is important not to receive, but actually to give. And you know, we preach this a lot in our Spiritist Center. But one day, we were moving from one place to the other, and we had to buy new chairs. And everyone was so tired, like today it's a marathon of lectures. And my friends were so very tired, but we had to get the new chairs still. And one of my friends said to me, Julio, we need to stop to eat. Now, if you have worked with volunteer service before, what you do, you draw as much as blood you can from them. Because if you allow these people to go away, forget it. You're never going to get them back. The work is not going to be done. And I told my friend, listen, if we stop right now to eat, the chairs will never be at the Spiritist Center. But we're all hungry here. And they start fighting with one another. And one of my friends, John, he actually quoted Jesus and he said, you know what? Guys, calm down. Remember that Jesus, he spent 40 days at the desert, not eating. 40 days and 40 nights with no food. And look at you guys, just a couple of hours. Other friend told John, well, but Jesus wasn't carrying chairs. That was food for the soul. We gained strength to carry the rest of the chairs. So the psychological benefit of doing volunteer work is that it completely changes the perspective of your own life. It nourishes your soul, it nourishes you spiritually. But what is it? The spiritual benefit of doing volunteer work. According to the Spiritist doctrine, we are eternal spirits in the road of evolution. And Spiritism does not teach we must suffer to grow. What we call suffering is just the effort that we need to make to go from one stage to the other. That's what we call suffering. We don't have to pay our debts with pain. What it tells us is that we must work in order to repair our debts. When we sow pain, when we sow misery, when we make others suffer, in our turn, we will reap suffering and misery and sadness. But if we start sowing happiness, peace, harmony, that's what we're going to get back. So our past reincarnations, we have done many negative things. And as a result, we must face the reactions of those negative actions. But it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to suffer to pay for those negative actions. What we have to do is we have to work and serve to pay those debts. So in reality, any volunteer work that you're doing, you're not serving the people. You're serving yourself through the volunteer work. So the Spiritist Center becomes an opportunity in order for us to clean up our past. Any kind of volunteer work is just to open doors for you in order to establish yourself spiritually. And we must take this advantage, because when we live this message, we actually drag people towards our path. Here, we make speeches for ourselves. Out there, every day, by living this message in our behavior, we are preaching to the entire world through our actions. At your job, you become more kind. You are a volunteer because you don't have to be kind to people. You give yourself freely to others because you understand the importance of being good. At your family, what is the purpose of serving the people outside if you hate those who you have reincarnated with? So you will volunteer yourself to become a better person inside your home, because that indifference will cause us so much pain. This is why the Italian orator and author Dante used to say that hell, the worst part of hell, was reserved for those who were indifferent. Being indifferent causes so much damage. By sharing the pain of others, you're erasing your own pain. Why is it that by doing good to others, you benefit yourself so much? You see, we're not the fountain of love. We're not the fountain of light. The light comes from the above, and it passes through us. And when we do good, it reaches the other person, benefits the other person. But before it gets to the other person, it benefits you first. So the spirits are constantly asking us to live this message. Our mission is to bring the proper image of Christ that was changed so much throughout our history. By living the Christ within us, we will be changing the world through volunteer work. There's a special passage on the New Testament in which Jesus is preaching at the beach, and he is healing all these different people. And he gets to a point that the crowd gathers so much, and he says, it's time for us to go to the other side of the sea. And as they're going to the other side, Peter, who was a fisherman, told Jesus, this is not a good time of the year to go to the other side, because suddenly the waves and the winds will come about and sink our boat. But John, the love apostle, told Judas, but Jesus is with us. Nothing is going to happen. What do you mean nothing is going to happen? This is a dangerous place. And Jesus actually went to sleep because the people drew so much love out of him. So while he was asleep, each apostle was giving the account of what they saw that particular day. Peter said, did you see how Jesus healed the blind? But then John said, I've seen how he healed the blind, but it was more spectacular of how he restored the person's health with a single touch. And the other person who was paralyzed, said James, it walked in front of us. And suddenly, the winds came about, and the waves started shaking the boat, and they're all fearing for their lives. And Jesus says to Peter, I told you Jesus got us in trouble. Look at us. We're going to die. The boat is sinking. And John said, no, nothing's going to happen to us. Jesus is right here. And Judas said, but he's still asleep. He's not even concerned about our safety. And John started panicking. Because you know how one person panics, and that panic contaminates everybody? And those who love panics, they're addicted to panicking other people. And so it contaminated everybody else. Now they start screaming, and John looked at Jesus and says, wake up, wake up. We're dying. And Jesus, standing tall, he looked at the wind and the waves, and he commanded them, calm down. Calm down. The second Spiritist Chicago, the second Spiritist seminar of Chicago, it's celebrating the journey of life. Life is a journey, and we are all in a boat. And sometimes the waves, they get really big and huge, and we feel we're going to sink. And if we do sink, it's because Jesus is still asleep inside us. We have not waking him up. He's just a theory in our minds, a knowledge, not a true living inside ourselves. And then we sink. We sink into depression. We sink to the lack of motive to live. There is no point. There is no objective. Instead of us solving our problems, the problems overcome us. There is a great book called The Other Wiseman. Hollywood transformed into a movie entitled The Fourth Wiseman. And this story, it tells the story about Audubon. Audubon was a young man who was trying to find the Savior. He actually encountered the other three wise men and set up a specific date for them to meet. But I guess there was a wrong reading with the stars, and Audubon got there late and he got lost. So he never met with the three wise men. So he was the fourth wise man. And the reason he was seeking this journey is because he had lost everything. His wife died, his kids died in a fire. So he sold all his fortune and he bought three different gems: a ruby, a diamond, and a pearl. And he went to seek his Messiah. And everyone called him crazy. His friend called him crazy. Why are you selling everything to seek the Messiah that you don't even know for sure that he exists? He doesn't care. I have no purpose to live. I must find him and present to him all my gifts. So he went, and every time he got into a specific place, he was late. The other three wise men had left. And one day he actually found the place where Jesus was born. But then all the children who were 2 years old were ordered to be killed. So this woman who was telling me where the three wise men had gone had a baby in her hand, and the soldiers came to take that baby. And she said, "Man, please help me, they're going to take my baby away." So when the soldier came in to take the baby, he took the ruby out of his pocket and gave it to the soldier so the soldier wouldn't take the baby. And he proceeded by this woman's direction to find the three wise men, and he found himself in the vicinity of the city where those with leper lived. Now, leprosy is a terrible disease. The person is actually decaying alive in that sense, because the smell that comes out of their body is just horrendous to stand. So these people were erased from the book of living people and were kicked out of the city. So this is where he found himself, in a small part of the vicinity of the city where they had a group of people with leper. Now, the woman arrested him, took all his possessions, the diamond and the pearl, and asked him, "Listen, I will return it to you if you heal our people." Being a wise man, it means you're a doctor. Well, who should I start with? And he started first with her son, which was a blind boy. So he did everything that he could, everything that he knew, and this boy on the following day did not regain his sight. He continued to be blind. But the other people were there asking him to heal them. And he did the best that he could. And as they were healed, he tried to continue to heal this blind boy. And of course, his sight never came back. And every week would pass by, they would say, "Listen, I know you're looking for your master. Many months have passed by. Why don't you stay another year? Why don't you stay another year?" And as the time passed by, he stayed for the entire 33 years. And he never found his master. One day they wanted to make a huge plantation because they're getting into so much trouble going to the city to get their own food, that he sold one of the gems, the diamond, just to get seeds for all of them. And one day, after 33 years for his search, a friend of his from the original city came with his daughter and told him, "Let's come back home. Your father died all alone. And you're here with these people. Who cares about them? You know you have become a legend in our city. They say that you are the most crazy man they have stepped foot in our city. Let's come back home." So his friend humiliated him. And his friend's daughter, he started laughing. And he said, "Listen, I gave my life to these people, yet I never found my master. Indeed, that makes me very sad, because I didn't know my father had died. Yes, he died all by himself. Here you are with these people." So his friend got arrested by the Romans. And his daughter was being sold to pay for his friend's debt. So one day, the blind boy, who was now a grown-up man, went to the city to purchase more food. And he heard the crowd saying, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth." So he ran towards this crowd because he felt this energy just dragging him towards that man. And then, later on that same day, he came running, and he met for the first time the doctor who was trying to heal him for the past 33 years. And he looked at him and he said, "I found the master you're looking for." He says, "You're lying." He said, "What do you mean I'm lying? Look, I'm seeing. I can see. I got sight." And he said, "But he's not going to accept me. Look, I was a wise man before, but look how I'm dressed." He says, "Don't worry about it. Jesus is surrounded by himself with people dressed like you, all in rags and poor." So he decided to see Jesus. And on his way to finally meet his master, the Roman soldiers passed by with his friend's daughter, arrested. Now the daughter screams at him, "Please save me, please save me." And he says, "But how?" And then he takes the last gem that he had, the pearl, and he gives to the soldier, and the soldier frees this little girl. And now he had no gifts to give. And when he finally went to see the master, he was already on the cross, dead. And once again, he became depressed. He never had an opportunity. So on his way back to those people with leprosy, he had a heart attack. And during that heart attack, he felt the presence, a sublime presence. And he noticed that it was Jesus. And when he looked at Jesus, he said, "Master, Master, I once had precious gift to give you." And Jesus said, "But I have accepted all your gifts." "What do you mean, Master? I never seen you." And Jesus says, "When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was homeless, you provided me shelter. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was in prison, you visited me. But Master, I never met you." "What do you mean I did all these things to you?" "When you have done to all those little ones, you have done it to me." We are the fourth wise man. And there are plenty of children and people asking for our help, for our love, for our action. To love here is not a feeling, it's to do. Sometimes I think what would be an opportunity to sit with Mahatma Gandhi, Chico Xavier, Martin Luther King Jr., just for a chat. What would these people tell me? And of course they would tell me, my life is what you have to do. Serve. That's what they did. They gave their lives. And this is why their spirits come from the great beyond to tell us to give our lives. And volunteer work to feed our souls. Because when we die, our coffins doesn't come with drawers. We cannot take the diplomas, the money, or the houses. All we can take is our actions towards one another. And even when you are sad, upset, and there are so much problems, the spirits ask us, let's fight against our own imperfections and do our best. This is why the spirit, Amelia Rodriguez, wrote such a beautiful poem through the hands of Hidalgo Franco, entitled Gratitude, that gives us all the tools that we must have in order to make on this life. When she says, there are many who complain as if theirs is the only pain, ignoring what they possess. I, instead of idle laments, I choose to present gratitude for what I have. Thank you, dear Lord, for life's gift, for limitless love. Treasures we all receive. Ceaselessly you have given. Provisions we could envision. Bread, air, and peace. Thank you for my eyes. It's so wonderful. I see the skies. But then there are those who lie in darkness, cannot contemplate the heavens. They don't see the nature's creativity. For I can see my love. I pray for those who are blind. I know that after this expiation, they too will visualize the polychromy of life on their next reincarnation. Thank you for my ears that I love, hearing given to me by God. It listens to immortal melodies, sounds of eternal composers, although distance always closer, sustaining harmony indefinitely. Because of my ability to hear, before the Supreme Intelligence I appear, to recite for the deaf a supplication. After this bitter strife, on their next life, they listen to all music's vibration. Thank you for my voice and yours. It makes me rejoice. But also for the voice that alphabetizes, that sings, that mends, that teaches, that transcends, that instructs, that moralizes. Because I can him attune I pray for who came through. I know that after this silent sting, by overcoming past mistake for moral evolution's sake, those with aphasia will sing. Thank you for my hands. And hands which are in command of poetry, of surgery, of compassion, of construction, which shelters and offers and embraces the elderly. Thank you for my feet. It allows me to beat the distance between us all. It renders me motion without any commotion since I began to crawl. But I see the amputated who are immobilized, atrophied, mutilated, and I can advance. After this current strain, the paralyzed will born again and will be able to walk and to dance. And at last, thank you for my home. It's so wonderful to say, welcome. It's not important that a house, it's a mansion or an apartment, a hovel or compartment, provided there is love from a spouse, love from a son or a daughter, a sister or a brother, anyone to care, even a company from a dog to keep us warm because it's so painful not to share. Even if I am all alone and there is no place to call home, even then I would not complain. Instead, I will offer my thankfulness, for life's exuberance is endless, for love will forever reign. Thank you, God, for the blessing of speaking, and to you all, thank you for listening.